Let's look at a couple more examples of using the sum and difference formulas for sine and cosine. So let's start out by calculating sine of pi over 12. So pi over 12, it's not a nice angle. It's not, a multiple of pi over 6 or pi over 4. But now that we have the sum and difference formulas for sine and cosine, if we can write this angle, pi over 12, as a sum or difference of nice angles, then we should be all set. So pi over 12, right, there are a couple ways that you could go about it, but it's 4 pi over 12 minus 3 pi over 12. But 4 pi over 12, if you simplify that fraction, that's pi over 3. And 3 pi over 12, that's pi over 4. So pi over 12, sine pi over 12, that's sine pi over 3 minus pi over 4. So now we're set up to use the difference formula for sine. So I have the difference formula, the sum and difference formula is written down here. And the way that this is supposed to work is the plus here goes with the plus over here, and the minus, since it's on bottom, goes with the minus right here. So since we have a minus sign, we need the difference version, so the version with the minuses. So we get sine of the first angle, which is pi over 3, times cosine of the second angle, which is pi over 4, minus cosine of the first angle, pi over 3, times sine of the second angle, pi over 4. So now all these sines and cosines are nice angles. So sine pi over 3 is root 3 over 2. Cosine pi over 4 is root 2 over 2 minus cosine pi over 3 is a half, and sine pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. And then putting all our denominators together, this is square root of 6 minus root 2 over 4. All right. Now let's try one with cosine. So how about 5 pi over 12? So again, there's more than one way to do this, but we can write this angle, 5 pi over 12, as a sum or difference of nice angles. So 5 pi over 12 is, I guess one way to do it is 3 pi over 12 plus 2 pi over 12. That would be one way to do it. And then if we simplify these fractions, we get pi over 4 plus pi over 6. And both of these are nice angles, so this would be one way to do it. There are other ways to do it, like I guess if we had 8 pi over 12, we could subtract 3 pi over 12. And 8 pi over 12, let's see, we can get rid of a factor of 4, so that would be 2 pi over 3 minus pi over 4. So you have options, right? Any one of these will give you the same final result, though. So I'll stick to the one that I came up with first. So cosine 5 pi over 12 is cosine of pi over 4 plus pi over 6. And now we need the addition formula for cosine. And if you look at cosines, it's a little bit weird. It seems backwards because the sum formula for cosine has a minus sign, and the difference formula for cosine goes with the plus sign on the other side. So got to be a little bit careful with cosine. So this is cosine pi over 4 times cosine pi over 6 minus sine pi over 4 times sine pi over 6. Okay, and now these are all nice angles, so we can just evaluate all of these directly. Cosine pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. cosine pi over 6 is root 3 over 2. Sine pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. Sine pi over 6 is a half. So we get, denominator is 4, we get square root of 6 minus square root of 2 again. All right.